Perfect. Okay, so let me do it. Okay, so welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock, a live stream for today, December 8th, 2020. I have with us Red Light Holland, CSE TRUFF, TRUFF over the counter. We have Todd Shapiro as the CEO. And Todd, welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is fantastic. I'm really pleased to be here, and I loved watching your last guest and really interesting stuff that you bring to the table.
Todd, as one of the things that our audience looks for, they're looking for stocks which have that 10x upside. If you saw the previous introduction, we've had a number of stocks on our program last year that are up, 1,300%, 72,000%, 500, a bunch of stocks that have been like 4x, 5x in the last month. So what investors want to know, the main thing is, before even getting into the whole business, which is the key, is what is going to be the path, like what can make, Red Light Holland let's call it a $253 stock? What needs to happen for it to get there?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Jack, I don't like to give price projections on these things, but what I would like to say is, I once heard Tim Cook speak of Warren Buffett when he found out that Warren invested in Apple. And I thought it was just an amazing reply because, of course, Tim said we're in it for all shareholders. And, me as the CEO of Red Light Holland and our entire management team, we're in this to build the business for all shareholders. But when Tim Cook found out that Warren Buffett had invested into Apple, he said, well, isn't that great? Because now we're aligned in our long-term vision because he had the best long-term investor. So for us, first and foremost, we like to think of long-term. But when you ask me, how can this industry grow? Because we're in an industry and we're in a sector. And right now, if you look at the sector that Red Light Holland is being paired into, you will look at companies that we feel we're completely undervalued to. So you can look at Compass Pathways, you can look at MindMed, other companies, for example, that have market caps, some over 2 billion, some approaching $1 billion, and some that really aren't doing that much. And listen, we all wish them well, but are over 100 million. Currently, we're at a market cap, today I haven't looked where we're trading at last, but call it, 30 million, maybe 35 million. So meaning we're undervalued to the peers in the sector. But I think what separates us and what really excites us over at Red Light Holland is a lot of the other psychedelic companies, and you're hearing about the psychedelic sector, they are really approaching it from a medical perspective, sort of really a big pharma perspective. And at the end of the day, big pharma is wonderful after raising hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and after diluting your stock to potentially having an opportunity to be bought out. And if you're bought out, that's a big win for people. But how many people were never bought out? How many people never got their story to market? And for us, we are executing on a plan. And I think this is what really, again, excites our shareholders and excites our management team, meaning we are selling legally in the Netherlands truffles of the magic variety. There's some people say $100 million market within that country alone of magic truffles sold through smart shops and online. And we've approached that market. Think of the way, in fact, Red Bull was discovered. Red Bull was discovered in Thailand. And look at the market that they then made for Red Bull across the world. So it's not that it's a new product, but it really is an entire new group, it's its own new category for people consuming a new product that we could perhaps bring to the world one day. And that's what we're really excited about. So we have microdose packs. We are selling them in smart shops now. We grow. We have a facility in Horst in the Netherlands. Really cool stuff. It's a beautiful little town. Our president is born in that town, known for mushroom farmers, legal mushroom farmers, by the way, and just a really quaint little area. We have set up our facility. We've just grown our first 100,000 grams of truffles, which is amazing. We're actually harvesting and packaging them as we speak. And then we've actually signed a definitive agreement with a wholesale company to sell those truffles. And in the meantime, our truffles are put into stores. They're on 8 smart shops. They're sold online, smart shops. Think of it like a glorified convenience store for certain products and sort of paraphernalia. And we're really excited because we're executing on that vision. We're delivering right away. And of course, we think that we can really tremendously, make an impact and disrupt this market.
Okay. So Todd, you mentioned a couple things I really want to dive into. I want to talk about the Red Bull stuff because I think that's a And for last time we talked about Red Bull, and I think it's very important for the audience. So I want to cover that. But for anybody that may not know, like again, this is the Wall Street Reporter program, so it's not the Joe Rogan podcast. So a lot of our audience may not know the difference between truffles, mushrooms. Have you ever tried DMT? That question that he asks. No. So what exactly do you do? What is it? What's the difference between truffles, mushrooms, psychedelics? What are you guys doing exactly? What does Red Light Holland produce?
Yeah, I'm really happy. And, I think maybe a better idea is to give a little history on me for a second. And then maybe I can get into why I got into the space and then tell you all about this stuff. Because I actually think it really provides some really interesting context that people might want to hear. So, listen, for 20 years, I had a really cool career in radio, hence, I don't maybe look like a traditional CEO, but, I made a brand, wearing a hat, wearing Air Jordans and going out and doing my thing and doing it at a high level. In fact, when I raised my money for the company, the first $4 million, I went to Bay Street wearing Air Jordans, wearing a ball cap and just doing it the way I do it, because I always believe that nobody should compromise whoever they are, as long as they actually can, have passion behind them, have hard work behind them, and then deliver and put those two together to create results. And that's what I'd like to think I've done my entire career. But what I noticed towards the end of my career in media, and I left on my own terms so I could really dedicate my entire time to Red Light Holland, was we are in a mental health crisis right now. And it is actually really disturbing. It is really frightening. And it's really quite sad. And, I would speak to very creative types, artists, musicians, comedians. I would speak to so many people on a daily basis on my show on SiriusXM. And the common theme that kept coming back was people were just not in a good place mentally. And now listen, I can't make medical claims, nor can my company, nor really can anybody in the sector right now. But if you anecdotally research things like magic mushrooms, and I'll explain to you the difference in magic truffles, and if you look towards the studies and the FDA breakthrough therapy and people talking about psychedelics, and specifically in our case, psilocybin, you'll learn that, wow, maybe this can potentially help what's going on. So I did a massive deep dive, because that's what I used to do as a radio show host, studying, learning, just really, and all of a sudden it became my new passion. I'm a guy who suffers from a tremendous amount of anxiety. I mean, copious amounts. And people found that hard to believe, because I'm pretty out there. I have a good personality. I'd like to think I got the gift of the gab. And, I was definitely socialite in my day for sure. I have no qualms, admitting that. So meaning I was in the scene, I was out there. But, I struggled with a lot of it until I went to the Netherlands and anecdotally took legal truffles. And when I did that, it was fascinating to me, Jack, what happened. All the anxieties I still possessed. They were all there, man. I was still just as nervous, still just as fearful, but they parked them aside. They shelved them in my brain. And it allowed me to kind of focus on what the tasks were at hand, or really live in the moment. And that's something, listen, I have a 1-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, I have an amazing wife. It's tough with COVID. I don't see my parents as much anymore. But, living in the moment is the thing that I think human beings are missing out on the most. And I wanted to go and say, how can I make a difference now after doing media for 20 years to better the lives for our children, to be able to go on this mission to say, how do we live in the moment more, and how do we enjoy life more? Because we only have one of it. And, my mission is to do that. So again, I can't make medical claims of what truffles do, but reading about psilocybin, I decided this was my new goal in life. I needed to bring this to the forefront, to provide access like they do in the Netherlands. And my goal is to provide access to people everywhere, not just an elite person's big pharma game, because that's a dangerous game, in my opinion. We've seen what benzos have done. We've seen what opioids have done. We've seen how big pharma has actually destroyed lives, contributing to worse off situations for families, and sadly, really terrible stuff, terrible reports. And I just thought, responsibly, through education and information, how can I and now Red Light Holland make a difference? So I thought that context was important to let people know why and how passionate I am, because I'm doing my best to, try to be a part of positive change. And we want to see these results of positive change. So this leads me back to what we're doing in the Netherlands and the truffles. Listen, I'm not a mycologist, but I can tell you that, the simple term here is, the truffle is the underground portion, really, the sclerotia, before it becomes above ground to become a mushroom. It's the subterranean part. And that's really the only difference that people need to know. They possess psilocybin, they're grown underground, they never see the light of day. And in the Netherlands, you can still sell truffles legally. You can't sell magic mushrooms. So they're grown in inoculated bags, and this is what's growing in our facility in Horst. They're like, it's essentially a sterile environment, although it's not EU GMP. And they never see the light of day, and they're grown over time, where then you sort of break open the bags, you wash off the grains, and you have your truffles, meaning they can never get to the point of magic truffles. We've recreated the underground growth part of growing the truffles. And then they are put into, now the way we're selling them, through responsible, and I always go back to education, information, responsible use, is we're selling them as microdoses. I'm not sure, Jack, if you've read up on what's going on in the microdose community, or if some of your viewers, and you have a ton of viewers who know much about it. But I encourage and implore everyone, Google just microdose, hashtag microdose on Twitter, on Instagram. Go and get a feel of what people are saying about what it's doing for their anxiety, for their focus, for their living in the moment. I'm not telling you this. This is what people are anecdotally repeating over and over and over again. And by the way, things like truffles and things like magic mushrooms, they've been used for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Certain indigenous cultures swear by them still to this day. And this is sort of given to us. These are products that were given to us, and used responsibly. I'd like to think we're learning so much more about them, and anecdotally, I'm learning from our consumers. And this is the most important part. We have a campaign going on right now, which is I microdose because, and you know why we're doing that, Jack? I can't tell you why you're microdosing. I want to learn from our consumer why they are microdosing, meaning we can collect this information. And I'm rambling here because that's what I do best, but I could continue to go on about how we're collecting the information if you'd like me to keep talking.
Okay, so so I want to zero in this. So basically, so essentially it's an organic product. This is 100% organic. This is not a synthetic.
Actually, that's a great question. You can only sell the truffles in their raw, unprocessed, natural form. So you can't manipulate them, you can't extract them, you can't put them into capsules, you can't even dip them in chocolate. So this is in the natural form. And by the way, they're like a walnutty kind of substance. They have a softer kind of texture to them, when you consume them, and they kind of got a hint of lemon, kind of like it makes you, if anyone, and by the way, I'm sure a lot of people, and it's funny now, people are really admitting this over and over. You're hearing more stories. Oh, I've done mushrooms, I've done truffles. People are way more comfortable. The stigma is ending to talk about this stuff. I think most people would say the truffle is actually, as a consumer goods product, is more enjoyable than kind of like a dried out harsh mushroom. But
so what's the difference between the mushrooms and the truffle? I mean, in terms of the effect, is the effect the same basically?
Yeah, and again, the effect varies, right? So this is where I can't jump in and tell you what the effect is, but what most people would say, that the psilocybin content is sort of like it's depending on the usage. So in a microdose, as opposed to a hero dose or a macro dose, you would use very little. And the effect, generally, what anecdotally a lot of people say, is really very little effect, in fact, meaning that the effect is back to that living in the moment. I like to kind of talk about it in terms of living life through my 5-year-old's eyes, where he's just happy and he sees snow on the ground and he just wants to go out and enjoy it. He doesn't have these guarded thoughts or these inhibitions. He just like living life to the fullest. And that's what I can tell you about magic truffles. I don't know what others could say. And the hero dose and the macro dose, I mean, you could go into the professionals like a Paul Stamets or others, they can tell you all sorts of different things. And there's guided therapies and therapists that can tell you about the psychological guided experience with them. For us right now, it's about the responsible use of the microdose. And again, we want to know from consumers what that experience is.
Okay, so basically, you're selling a branded product, right? A branded truffle. Right?
Yes. So listen, this is actually what I think really separates our.
How big is the actual thing that you take?
Yeah, so it's a 15-gram box right now. The first product offering that we have is Red Light Holland. It comes in basically 3 different three different packs of 5 gram bags, and your recommended usage would be a gram per dose. So basically 15 uses of the microdose pack that would sell for €25. And we sell it online at imicrodose.nl, and we sell it currently in 8 smart shops. And listen, we've announced that we have a non-binding letter of intent right now with a really big distribution and wholesale company. Of course, we're going through our due diligence phase, so anything can happen. We're learning a lot about it. But if we could close on this deal, which we're obviously hoping to, we didn't put the offer just to say, that would really open up a lot of great distribution channels for us.
Okay, so it sounds actually pretty reasonable. This is like $1 a dose, basically.
Yeah, a little over $1 a dose, and listen, it's very affordable. Like if Jack, if you start to compare what people spend on alcohol a year, or if you even cannabis per year, or even like energy drinks per year, like this really is in our opinion a very affordable kind of opportunity for people to discover this. Again, you can only do this legally in the Netherlands right now where we are, and we had to get very extensive legal opinions to back that up.
Okay, so so right now this is legal in the Netherlands. You're selling this, and you're at the revenue stage now, right? You're selling this?
Yes, we launched our product very late September, and we're in shelves. COVID is around, but we're aggressively trying to get eyes on the website as well, imicrodose.nl, and there's great margins when you don't go through the wholesale route as well. So yeah, listen, we're building this brand, but we're also, and I can't wait to talk about this, we're building the brand really uniquely away from the Netherlands too, predicting what might eventually come down the road.
Yes, I want to, because that's I think the fascinating thing. I want to get into what we kind of touched on last night. So the main thing is this: where is this going to be legalized now? Like I think somebody mentioned Oregon. I think Vancouver is legal. Where's and what places are kind of like pipeline for legalization in the next let's call it 12 months?
Yes, and Jack, how's my reception? Is it okay for you today? Are you getting me okay?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure because I was getting a little choppy, but no, a really good question. So we're legal in the Netherlands, and all anyone really has to do is go do a Wikipedia search or a Google search to find out what countries are allowing psilocybin. So, you'll pop up Brazil, you'll pop up Jamaica, you'll pop up Bulgaria. You'll learn about what's going on in Mexico. Of course, Measure 109, which was just passed in Oregon, which will be a 2-year regulatory framework, which Oregon authorities are going to work on to provide psilocybin for therapeutic reasons. And essentially what they're going to do is look at kind of the way medical cannabis used to be, is that it was prescribed. The natural product of cannabis, the cannabis plant, was used as a medicine. And I think that's how the Oregon authorities are going to look at it with the natural magic mushrooms and perhaps maybe even magic truffles.
Okay. And so there's, look, I think the reality is, and this is just a matter of time before we see this legalized in more and more places in the U.S. globally. I mean, the Pandora's box, whatever, is open, right? The genie is out of the bottle, and I think once one place legalizes and people say, okay, people aren't from taking this, everything is great. It's just gonna from there. But in the meanwhile, though, can you explain, Todd, like kind of vision, because you have a kind of a very unique vision for, creating a brand, like a global brand in the space, in the truffle space, and which I think, from what I understand, is your strategy is to get this massive brand. So by the time legal in all these places, they're going to come to you, and you're going to already own mind share, mind share.
I mean, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I'm a brand builder. My background is building brands. For 20 years, I worked in some of the biggest radio shows that Canada's ever seen. I've worked with some of the biggest companies that Canada's ever seen, from, as a brand ambassador or an influencer. I worked with, Canopy Growth is a good example of that. I worked for Tweed. I used to bring out Snoop Dogg to concerts. I even helped do, certain brand building with Canada Goose. I've interviewed Mark Messier, famous hockey player, at a Harry Rosen store. I've worked with, Samsung and Canadian Tire. So I've had experience on understanding how you connect with audiences. And I'd like to think that I do that very well, to be able to build the brand. Because listen, at the end of the day, I think building brands and brand value is really, like, in my opinion, these days especially, it's almost more important than a commoditized plant. If you think about it, like if you look like the Red Bull lifestyle that they built around the one energy drink that they have, and if you can do this successfully, well, that gives you a massive head start in any industry, quite frankly. And I'd like to think that nobody has done it in the psychedelic sector ever like we're doing it at Red Light Holland. And why is that? Oh, I'll tell you why. Right out of the gate, look at our management team, okay? Bruce Linton, the former CEO of Canopy Growth, is the chair of our advisory board. So how does that help with brand building? Well, think about it. I get advice from Bruce almost every day about our logo, which we're changing, by the way, and I'll get back to that, about, ways to connect with an audience, because he's a great brand builder. On top of getting, Canopy Growth to whatever billions of dollars he got it to at one point, he is really engaged with the people that support his companies. And I have firsthand experience of that when I did and hosted their shindig out in Smith Falls, and I brought out Snoop Dogg. Here's Bruce Linton when their stock's trading at $67 or something on that day, blowing up beach balls and throwing them into the audience. That's the type of CEO that I admire. That's the type of CEO that I look to be a mentor and a coach. And that's the type of person I am, connecting with people. So beyond Bruce, what else do we have? Russell Peters, global famous comedian. And I mean, Jack, like this guy, a lot of people don't realize, in 2013 or 2014, whatever it was, he was the second or third highest paid comedian behind guys like Jerry Seinfeld. He has built a global brand for himself. He's a small, out of a small sort of suburb out of Toronto, Canada. It was called Brampton. He eventually became a worldwide famous comedian. And the beautiful part about that is he did it himself. He was his own entity as opposed to a product, built that product up. So I get experience from Russell Peters, who's on our team, by the way, has multiples of millions of followers on Twitter, Facebook. I think he's like, maybe 8 million combined if you do all the math of all the different social medias. Recently, we announced working with a very Instagram famous model. And people, kind of thought, well, why are you using a model? Well, guess what? There are alternative revenue streams in industries. And if you don't capitalize like Ferrari did, not only just selling Ferraris, but selling great Ferrari merchandise, if you don't do that, then you're not thinking of
making more merchandise than they are with cars now.
Exactly. And people don't realize that. And if the CEO is not thinking in the best interest of their shareholders to go alternative revenue stream, well, guess what? They're not going to grow that company. So we hired a really wonderful lady. She's an advocate for Autism Speaks. Her brother has autism, and she's a really wonderfully put together, individual, very powerful, very intelligent, but also a model. And by the way, what do models do? They help sell clothing. So, now that we're doing this rebranding of our logo, we've already started selling some merch at imicrodose.ca, because that's a product I can sell in Canada, the United States, in any country, because right now I can only sell my other product in certain countries. And right now we're starting in the Netherlands. The other thing we're doing, which I think, like this to me, to be honest, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling a lot, but I could get so excited by this. Like we just announced last week, working with what Time Magazine named last year the most famous structural designer in all of the Americas. His name is Karim Rashid. This guy is like, just go and Google his name, Karim Rashid, Rashid, and look at the designs. He's worked with Hugo Boss. He's worked with major hotels, with Audi, with Samsung. I mean, he's designed some of the coolest stuff ever in the world. And he's working for us now as our head of design, working on a product that we're calling the Wisdom Truffle. And I don't know how much time we have, but I could get in all the tech and where the Wisdom Truffle is right now.
We'll go into it.
Okay.
We have plenty of time.
Okay, because I love this stuff, man. We're executing.
I want to give some context in case anybody. So Karim Rashid, right? My background was cut. It was in the art business before. And so this guy is really sort of like a rock star in the world of design. I mean, like you see is everywhere. This is like is actually a major brand name. And think of like, who's the guy, like how many do you know of? You know of the guy that made the Apple, right? The Mac. Was it John Ivey, the iPod, or whatever it is, or a couple of guys, a few brands. But and we were talking, I think last night, you mentioned okay, so first explain what this guy's gonna do, and I'm gonna tell you why I think this is actually gonna sell very well, this product that you're gonna make.
Because I appreciate that.
You mentioned the cause, KAWS.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I have my ear to the street. Let's be honest. Like, I really know what's going on in social media. I know trends. I'm a shoe collector. I probably made tens of thousands of dollars on flipping shoes on StockX. I just really understand what is going on with the street and what catches on. And I connect to the people. Am I in academia? No. Am I a scientist? No. Am I, are we filled with, am I even really from the cannabis industry? No. What I am is from the people industry. I connect with people and I know what people want these days. And I'll tell you what people want. They want companionship, and they want to be able to be spoken to and be spoken to directly in genuine and authentic ways, and understand and learn, have education, and make decisions for themselves though. So with Kareem, what we're doing, and it's sort of a little bit of a backdrop here because this is how responsible we're being as a company, Jack. We in the Netherlands have just finished developing our virtual reality headsets that are currently, literally as we speak, being shipped to the Netherlands from Silicon Valley, from that area, working with a company called Radix Motion that has a 4-minute video on learning about the magic truffle, learning about the origins about the magic truffle, learning about how it connects with your 5-HT2TA receptors, learning about so much about the truffle, and almost mimicking your mind of what it feels like to be microdosing before you buy our product. We want to be this regulatory and this responsible. So by the way, if someone's uncomfortable with that, you shouldn't buy our product. How does that relate to the wisdom truffle? Well, the wisdom truffle is actually within this virtual reality experience. He's like a really cute little figure, and you can get in him and even do this this dance. They have like this special dance technology, movement technology.
So Kareem is going to design this figure for you, right?
Yeah. So now he's going to make that come to life and design it. And what we want to do, and the plan is to then get this manufactured and sell it as an alternative revenue stream.
Okay, so Todd, just to give some people a context, is like the figure you're going to make is similar to like what the artist KAWS, KAWS, does. He makes those cartoonish figures, right? I mean, now he does fine art paintings, but he also does a line of mass-produced collectibles, or even crazy. This guy's market is going through the roof. It's a little bit like, I mean, you probably know this. I mean, I know the name, but I don't know. Is this brand like Supreme, right? Supreme.
I believe in brand.
I don't understand it, but basically anything they put their logo on, it just people buy, like a hammer.
Well, maybe Hugo Boss is a good example, right? Kareem did Hugo Boss designs. He just designed a perfume bottle for them, and he's designing our wisdom truffle. This is just amazing stuff for a small cap company that's in this nascent early industry where we feel we're undervalued to what's going on with some of these other medical plays. And we're sitting there going, at some point, Jack, could this follow the path of cannabis? Could access to psilocybin, a natural-based product, think about that for a second. It's natural. It's not like you're creating a synthetic. And people, as we all know, and we totally know this, have been using it for years and years and are still today ordering them online illegally in Canada, in America, in Mexico, you name it. They're ordering these magic mushrooms illegally. So why not go the route of cannabis, hopefully regulate the industry, which we're trying to do as a company already, and then be able to sell it legally, where, by the way, the government then gets their tax dollars. If people are going to use this anyway, why aren't we taxing people on it? And we quite frankly want to provide the access. We want to, do it carefully, and we're doing it again by building this really, really cool brand. And we're very excited by it. We're really, really excited. We're catching on. I mean, I think the stock might even reflect the brand build. We're trading, tens of millions of shares some days, including today. I think we're up to 30 million.
Wow. Yeah. No. So I want to get back to the branding thing, because I think this is the crazy part, which I think could be more valuable than a lot of stuff. So you're gonna have Kareem design this figure, right? You're gonna sell these like cute kind of like figurines, basically, and it's gonna become a collectible, just like KAWS, just like Supreme. It's going to become a huge thing, because this guy really he's like an A-list guy. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm sure it'll work. And you're going to have these kind of like these cute figures. It's going to become a whole branding thing, and that in itself could become. I mean, what did Supreme sell for? I think Supreme just sold for was $1 billion, a couple of $1 billion. I think the brand was sold.
Well, I mean, all someone has to do is look at like what a company like Nike is worth or whatever, you know, and if you had Michael Jordan, you know, and Tinker Hatfield, you know, helping out design Air Jordans and, you know, with the success of those. And listen, I'm not saying we're going to get to Nike status at all here, but I really are just looking for these potential
It's more
alternative
interesting
revenue.
because this is more subversive. So what you're doing, because the truffles is a little bit more subversive than cannabis. So by that you know by its nature, it becomes a more interesting product for consumers. It's just a cooler product.
And what I like about it though, Jack, it's educating at the same time, right? So we're you know, we call it a wisdom truffle. Why? Because there's actually augmented reality that's going to be built into. So you're going to be able to hold up your phone, put it onto the wisdom truffle. The wisdom truffle is going to shoot you out some messages, and it's going to tell you, to be honest, what it's going to tell you is live in the moment. How can we recreate an microdose lifestyle? Because we can't sell the product for people to understand what the lifestyle is, but what we can do is promote what we are learning are, you know, people anecdotally telling us what it does for them. So put down your phone. It's actually, you know, we picture it holding your phone and then giving you a message saying, go out for a walk, or, you know, go call your mom and your dad and have it. Oh, I guess that's a bad example because you put your phone down, but you know, like, or, you know, you go connect with nature, go do some yoga or stretching. You know, this is our idea. We want people to disconnect from their phones, from their Instagrams, from their Facebooks. You know, I'm under a big belief right now, and I've seen all this anxiety going on, that people are sadly trying to live their lives online. And COVID's made this worse because there's not many personal connections going on anymore. And you're feeling down because you're not getting the likes you want. You're not getting the attention you want. You're not getting the retweets. But by the way, that's not how you live life, in my opinion. And now I'm 47 years old and I have kids and I want to get outside more and do activities. We want to get you back to living in the moment. This is Red Light Holland's mission. And this is what we want to do through our products, through our product offerings, through our alternative revenue stream opportunities, and also just through our messaging. We want to create a really cool community and a really cool, you know, feeling of individuals that can open up to one another and share their experiences too at some point, because that is going to help the conversation, that is going to help end the stigma, and that is going to help hopefully bring fulfillment into people's lives.
Yeah, no. So we just kind of did the backstory about the branding thing, because I think so. You're going to start. Well, first of all, you're already in production. You got the truffles out in the market. You're getting sales. It's early on, but at the same time, you're launching the branding, the global branding, which is really going to kind of pave the way. It's going to create, it's going to pave the way for, you know, your rollout over the next couple of years. So it's really long-term thinking. It's actually very clever, and it's probably going to make money. Talking about, you know, Ferrari I think they make more money from merchandise now than the cars, or definitely the margins, right? Other brands we can talk. I think Supreme was a skateboard maker originally, right? They make skateboards.
So and then they went into merch, and you know the big red stripe.
So technically they're a skateboard company, but all their other stuff is like, you know, whatever the merchandise is. So it's the same thing here. You're really a truffle company, but you can make a lot of money on the merchant with this stuff, with this, which is, I think people are going to need to see it, because we're talking about, well, once they see it, then they'll understand it. Once they see the actual product and everything else, then you get it. Yeah.
And listen, we just signed Kareem on as our head of design, so we have time to demonstrate it and show it to the world. But in the meantime, you know, you go back to what we're doing as a company. We've executed on a vision. We're not telling stories here. You know, you talk to a lot of companies in the small cap space. They have great decks. They, you know, put on beautiful suits and a nice tie, and they look you dead in the eye and they tell you a story, and then you go, well, have you acted on that story yet? And by the way, I told the market that I was going to have product on shelves by the end of Q3, and guess what? We delivered on that as a team, and a very small, tight team too. We are operating on a very tight budget. We have a lot of, you know, we just reported our financials. You can go to CDAR to check them out. You know, we have over $6 million that we filed there. We have some assets too. I think it puts us over $7 million. You know, we've been really careful with our spending, with delivering on what we say we're going to do. It's early. Of course, it's speculative. Of course, it's a nascent industry. But what we want to do is continue to show. I mean, you mentioned Joe Rogan earlier. How many small cap companies have been mentioned on Joe Rogan? I've been getting emails from across the world, probably because of that mention. And what we're hearing is from people going, when can I get your product? When can we get your product? Todd, I'm a firefighter. I don't talk about what I'm going through very much. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from, what I've been going through. I want access to your product, but I can't get it. So I've invested in your company. These are the types of, stories we're hearing at Red Light Holland. And we're so grateful for the support, and we're so proud of the team. And listen, it's early, but I'm a worker. I have 2 kids and a wife, and it's tough. I'm not seeing them as much as I'd like to, but I'm just doing my best to provide access to people is my goal through responsible ways as a company, a good corporate governance, and of course, education and information. And listen, could we expand? We'll look into the countries that you can Google to see where potentially we can be. But we have introduced a partnership, and it's non-binding right now, that with Halo Labs, a company that was founded in Oregon, that we are looking to explore to create a joint venture to get into Oregon as this regulatory framework is being written out. So we're already looking and trying to get into that category. Of course, it's a little bit of time away, but we're working with people who understand those who write the regulatory frameworks, because they're there. We're not just telling a story saying we're going to be there. Of course, it's non-binding right now, but why wouldn't we try to get to that point working with an established company?
Okay, we're going to get into some audience questions. Todd, do you have time?
Yeah, man. As long as you don't mind screaming kids in the background and my phone going off the hook, this is great. I love this stuff.
Okay, so we're going to go into some audience questions. So I think the main thing is this, basically, because you're in revenue right now. It's early on in the Netherlands. Before I get into Jacqueline's question about the Halo Labs, or how big is the opportunity in the Netherlands by itself? What kind of revenues can you talk about, your projections? What do you expect to generate the next, 12 months, 18 months?
So, what I'd like to say is there's a market of about 100 million that we feel $100 million worth of truffles that could be sold. And how do you disrupt that market? So there's a really interesting way of disrupting it. It's obviously through, growing this brand, because nobody in the Netherlands, in my opinion, sorry, my little 5-year-old is here. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I'm giving merch to the audience for my 5-year-old. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
You got free labor.
Like 5-year-old. I guess we're doing merch giveaways now live on the Wall Street Reporter. But
you want to give something away? We'll do a giveaway.
Dude, I'd love to give these great hats away and stuff.
How do we do this? Sure. What do we need to do for the hat giveaway?
We'll tweet it out. We'll do a retweet contest after. Okay. You can get me at I am Tiny Tickles.
Because I've never put that giveaway.
And so, yeah, listen, you got to be a voice to people, and you got to, we don't mind, sharing what we think is this brand build. But back to the disruption. A lot of the way they're marketing truffles right now in the Netherlands, really, you don't know if you're buying fireworks or if you don't know if you're buying truffles. Should I eat this stuff or light it on fire? It's just, there hasn't been much thought being put into it. Back to the Red Bull analogy, in every smart shop that we're currently in, we've supplied them with a fridge, because again, they have to be in the raw, wet, unprocessed form, meaning they have to be refrigerated to keep that shelf life of approximately 3 months after they go to market. So you open it up with these really beautifully designed fridges, you go in there, it stands out the second you walk into the smart shop, in my opinion. Think of Red Bull, the way they did their fridges in convenience stores. You'd walk in, the convenience store didn't look that great, but you saw this really cool modern looking brand. And this is the type of things that we're putting thought into right off the bat.
Interesting. Okay, and so 100 million is the market just in the Netherlands alone.
Well, yeah, that's just the Netherlands. I mean, listen, I'm very careful on how I'm going to say it.
Yeah, okay, it's pretty decent.
But what I love about it is I don't want to make the mistakes that cannabis companies made. And there were a lot of mistakes that these companies made, meaning they thought they could predict the market while they were raising, a ton of cash. And then they just blew their cash because they didn't understand who their demographics were. There's no way, you can't grow a company that way, in my opinion. You have to carefully understand who your audience is, and then how you speak to your audience, and how you then garner that support from your audience, and then obviously continue to grow with them. And then they will continue to go and promote you. And that's what really grows a company, in my opinion. So the nice thing about the Netherlands is let's not burn through our cash.
Like Red Bull.
Sorry.
Very similar to Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, Red Bull started small, European countries, nightclub scenes, and then it grew.
With the brand, the whole. Okay, so you and Red Bull are really two sides of the same. Opposite sides of the same almost. They're a stimulant. You're like a mind expansion thing. Same thing, really.
Yeah. Actually, technically, in the Netherlands. So, sorry, Jack, I was cutting you off, but I just was having bad reception. But in the Netherlands, the truffle is classified as a stimulant, actually. You pay a 21% VAT tax on it, VAT tax. So yeah, we want to look to the countries where we can go to next. And if there's ever an opportunity to go to Brazil, the population of Brazil now goes from 17 million to over 200 million. So, you look to slowly expand, but understand your demographic before you go there, because then it saves you wasting money. You got to have a beta study. This is how companies are grown. Uber did it. All these, you got to understand who uses you. Go do that carefully. And then all of a sudden, that's when expansion happens. And you don't dilute by raising money thinking you can predict it.
Interesting. Let's jump into Jacqueline's question. How does Labs fit into the equation?
How does, sorry?
Halo Labs fit into the equation.
Well, listen, I'm actually a big fan of their CEO over there, Kieran Sidhu, and he's about really expansion, and he wants global domination. And listen, they've really garnered sort of a lot of accretion within their company. They have little pockets of everywhere where they are. They're in Oregon, they've gone to Las Vegas now, they want to go into California, they're in Lesotho, Africa. I mean, they're really growing their brand. They have some sort of entities within the UK. So I like that thought about them, but they're from Oregon. So if we can get into a definitive here, we create a joint venture, and then we work together. And think about it, we don't have to now use our manpower, if we do get into a definitive, to go and get a facility, to potentially be growers in Oregon if we get a license over there. And we're also now have manpower over there, as opposed to just saying, hey, we're this Canadian company in the Netherlands, we now want to be in Oregon. Well, guess what? We're working with people, if we get to the definitive, who are from Oregon. And that's what's exciting for us.
Okay. We got a question here from Mr. B. He's asking, how can you scale us from 2 or 3 mom and pop shops to a multi-billion global disruptor?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a really good question. So first off, on the Netherlands side of things, again, it's non-binding. We're doing the due diligence. We're obviously, everyone wants us to go through, but there's a wholesale company that we've put an offer on. And if we can close on the wholesale company, they have distribution to pretty much every smart shop within the Netherlands. Also, they have distribution to collectively about 1,300 stores across Europe. Now, I can't get Truffles into those stores, but perhaps I could get a hat into those stores. Perhaps I could get the Wisdom Truffle into those stores. Distribution is everything for us, so we're really hoping that it goes through. It's a due diligence period. We have Dutch counsel working on that right now, and I can't wait to update the market on as soon as I can, and that's my plan. But then you look to other countries, and what I can tell you is this. If you look at the path of cannabis, in 2001, I believe, the Canadian government, what they did was they allowed cannabis to be used for compassionate grounds reasons. They granted that access where it could be prescribed. And they weren't prescribing pills or anything. They're prescribing the cannabis plant. What happened over the last 4 to 5 months here in Canada, where I am? Well, guess what? In Canada, the Canadian government, the health minister, has allowed magic mushrooms to be used for compassionate grounds. And first and foremost, I want to say, as a company, we're so grateful we're so proud of the government for making that decision, because the individuals who sadly are terminally ill and end of life here, they can live their remaining days anxiety free, and that's what they've asked the access for. Also, now they've granted access for trauma reasons. That was a case that came up recently. So in our opinion, we look at this as following that path of cannabis, and at the risk of ever sounding exploitive, because I don't want to, because first and foremost, we want people to be doing well at their end of days, but maybe now they're going to allow this for more medical reasons. And then, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, and again, I got my ear to the street, okay? I know the people. I talk to the people. I don't, high-level radio shows. Everyone's using this magic mushroom, ordering them online anyway. So social movements are so powerful these days, Jack, in my opinion, that we're going to see, in my opinion, hurdles being broken down, pressures put on governments, and we're seeing it now with decriminalization movements, with these legalization movements saying, now you did cannabis, well, why can't you give us, the people, access to magic mushrooms or magic truffles? Because guess what? If you don't, I'm going to order it online illegally anyway. I'd rather it be a regulated industry. I'd rather be able to bring it to my mom's house and talk to her about a microdose pack and be open about it, because we want to end the stigmas. That's really BS, if you ask me, about what's really been talked about with psychedelic drugs for years and years and years. And ultimately, we want help now. And if there are proven out benefits of magic mushrooms, the Health Canada just granted them access for a reason. So they're obviously admitting at some point here that they are benefiting people, that they're helping with anxiety. So why can't they help with everybody's anxiety if that's what the government is allowing? So us as a company, we want to be responsible. We're doing it through education, information, VR headsets, augmented reality. We're creating a digital care program where literally we'll be in touch with you as you use our product to try to create the world's biggest clinical study of people actually using our product. Again, ear to the street. Let's talk to our consumers. So we'd like to think these social movements will be so powerful that maybe the way cannabis rolled out, which took 15 years to get recreationally, perhaps we'll see it far sooner than that. And if that's the case, then we'll maybe follow suit in America, and it'll be really interesting to watch what's going on. But I can tell you this, social movements are powerful. People want access. People are getting access. Why not do it legally?
No, I mean, things are really happening at a much faster pace. Like it took, I think, cannabis really, it really gained traction. Well, it probably did take, I think, 10, but I think for this is going to happen like in the next, let's call it 24 months maybe now, because the ground, the ground has been, the road has been paved by cannabis. So for the microdose, I guess for the microdose aspect, it should be soon. But in the meanwhile, I think the key takeaway is that number one is you're going to have our revenues already in the Netherlands, and number two is you're going to be kind of paving the road with the branding, everything else on a global basis. Kind of like a Red Bull, but almost like in reverse. Like first you have the brand out, and the brand. I mean, I think people will buy the brand, the stuff. I think some of these people are not even going to be consumers of the truffles. They just think it's cool. It doesn't. It doesn't really matter. It's like so that's very interesting. And let's see. I want to see if we can get into some more questions. Let's see if we have somebody asking about F1 racing. Red Light needing a F1 racing team. Let's see.
It's interesting. We'll consider all angles on how we bring in certain individuals to maybe work with the company. And we did it with Russell Peters. We did it now with Chloe. We did it with Kareem. And I'm very fortunate. Listen, I've interviewed Jerry Seinfeld, Jeff Goldblum. I'm not saying they're going to be, part of our company. Our company's been mentioned on Joe Rogan already. Like, I'm very lucky. I know a lot of people. I'm very humble about that. I've always found it weird to be my own product. I find it far easier as a CEO of a company to talk about how proud I am of our team, of what we're doing, and the brand itself, and of course the product itself. That's a much more comfortable place for me. But I'll go through my Rolodex, and if I, at some point, we'll see where else we can go with building a brand. Because go and read the story on Puma and how they built their brand and how they started. They were falling under, they weren't doing very well. Then they brought on Rihanna, Jay-Z, and I'm not saying I have connections to Jay-Z or Rihanna, but this is what elevates companies. Same idea.
Yeah. No, but and also the thing is this. I mean, with the Rashid, I mean, you have like this world-class guy. This is like, it's sort of the. In the music, he's like the Jay-Z of design almost, right? Like what Jay-Z is in the music business. This guy's kind of like in that world of. Okay, Todd, we got let's kind of wrap up here. What's your vision for Trip next? 2-3 years out, which is, I know it's an eternity for a lot of the investors. 2-3 years out, which is what is, if everything goes right? Let's just what is Red Light Holland going to look like?
Sure. And it's interesting you say 2-3 years away, because I think I was looking at charts the other day and I saw Canopy Growth at 6 months of trading, and they were at like 270. I think I recall them being at. And I'm like, imagine if people just really believed in where the cannabis industry was going. And of course, you couldn't predict it then, and it was risky, and it was speculative, and it was new, and it was nascent, much exactly like, the position we're in right now. Although, we are in a market, so a little bit different. And, I think that, it's funny with the small cap world, because I like people like, look at Elon Musk's vision, like one day he said, we're going to go to Mars, and guess what? Like, he's going to get to friggin' Mars, but he almost went bankrupt doing so. And, as a company, we're proud of the fact that we want people to have access carefully. And by the way, we do have a science side. We have a science and innovation. I'll talk about that next time on your show, Jack. But, in turn, it's like, where am I going to be? I'm never going to give anyone price projections. All I'm going to tell you is that we work really hard. We have a great tight burn rate. We are delivering on what we're saying we're going to do. We're following, what's going on in Oregon, what's going on in DC. We're following what's going on in California, perhaps Colorado. We're looking, reading up on what's going on in Brazil and Jamaica. You've seen, people talk about psilocybin in Jamaica now. So we have our ear to the street, and we're going to carefully follow those paths that allow us to go. And in the meantime, we'd like to think they build the biggest psilocybin stimulant brand in the world.
Okay, so like a Red Bull, basically.
That's my goal, man. I want, it's really interesting.
The Red Bull of truffles.
Well, yeah, why not? And maybe magic mushrooms, and maybe other product offerings at some point too.
Okay. Todd, what's kind of like for the next couple of months or so? What kind of news flow can investors expect? Like, what kind of milestones do you have coming up? Let's call it short term, because again, we have a lot of very short term oriented people. Unfortunately, they need to know what's going to happen. The next 3-5 weeks. They can't look beyond 2 years. They need right now.
Well, I think it's an interesting question because. As new as I am to the capital markets, I also don't want to create fluff announcements. To me, that's not an effective strategy for a company. Like, I'm just not a fluff guy. Yeah, and I made a living every day speaking to people for 2 to 4 hours a day for 20 straight years. And whatever came out of my mouth was what I was living. And I always joke to my team, I go, I used to get paid in decent amounts of money to say everything that was on my mind. And now I get paid not to say what's on my mind because of selective disclosure reasons and everything. So what I can tell you though, is that mind that was working for 20 straight years and always creating content and always creating, storylines and always creating great, captivating, engaging radio shows. That's how this mind works to try to grow a business. But when the time is right, you'll see announcements. I'm not going to create fluff for shareholder base. I'd like to think that when we do it, it's going to be meaningful. And I think that's exactly what we've done as a company so far, and we're proud of it.
Okay. Todd, I'm going to wrap up with last question here, and then we'll have you back next week. We'll go through the whole formal presentation, the next program. So Todd, favorite question here, is, in your opinion, top 3 reasons why investors should consider TRIP today. Why should they consider buying the Red Light Holland today?
Yeah, please do your due diligence or speak to your financials advisors and everything. Do all that. And one of the things I'll tell you is call me. Like just to have a transparent conversation. If you missed out on anything, like literally my phone number is 647-204-7129. Now, I'm never going to tell you to buy my stock, but if you missed out on something, I can talk to you, and I'll talk to you carefully. Selective disclosure reasons. But really, listen, in my opinion, as a long-term shareholder, I think of us as being very undervalued to our peers. Look at the numbers of our peers and look at what they're doing. Where is their path to revenues and where is their path to profitability? I encourage you just to try to do those comparables and then look to where we're doing and where our path to profitability potentially can be. And I think that's big. And then ask yourselves, do you like the brand? And if you have any suggestions about the brand, by the way, we literally just announced a new brand logo contest with Russell Peters and Chloe to join a committee. We're going to give 3 people to join that committee $5,000 if they win this contest to be a part of helping with the brand. And I'll tell you why. I was taking feedback from a lot of our shareholders saying, they liked it, but they didn't love it. I want people to love it. I want people to love us and be a part of us. I want to be engaging with them, and I want to learn from them as well, because we're all coachable here. No ego in this space at all. There shouldn't be anyway. And listen, some companies have that ego. So listen, look at the, how we feel we're undervalued. I think a really important thing is to look at our float. We've really, we've traded, I think, twice our float now since we've been publicly traded. We're very proud of that. We've even traded 4 times through our last raise of that float that came free trading. The undervalued part is one that I look at and think, my goodness, I would look more into that and ask people around you who might understand that more so than yourselves. Or if you understand it, that might be an opportunity, but you have to make that decision for yourself.
No, I think one of the interested in the psychedelic space, Red Light is the valuation is very compelling, and you have that path towards revenues, profit. It's a near-term path, so it's not something which is always out somewhere on the horizon. It's now basically between the the revenues coming from the Netherlands, the brand. So there's a lot. There
were interesting companies. Yeah, there were interesting companies in the cannabis space, like and good companies, by the way, like Medifarm Labs. Like if I recall, that stock chart was stock chart was huge and then came down, and that was more of a Medi farm. Like that was more of a pharma play. And then look at a Trulieve, which is more of a a rec play here. Responsible rec play, and like so where will the industry be? No one has no one can predict it. I'm not wearing I can't create magic here, although we're dealing with magic truffles. It's just I'd like to think of trends and try to be predictive without making claims and making promises. But we are working hard to achieve these goals, and that's what we're doing best.
Excellent. Okay, Todd, on that note, I want to thank you, and we're going to have you back probably next Thursday for the follow-up. We're going to have a slideshow and everything else, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of audience questions then. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.